Today we're going to debrief Activity 6.1, What do cells do with sugar? Before we get started, I do want to mention that this is one of the last labs of our unit, and we will be starting to look at the test afterwards. Information about the final test and study guides and other study material are available on Schoology, and you should check Schoology out for that information. As you watch this video, please make sure that you have your word wall open. As words are mentioned in the video, please pause the video and add them to your word wall. To review the lab, we had a setup of 2 Ziploc bags in the back of the room. In one Ziploc bag there was 30 milliliters of water and a pinch of yeast. The other Ziploc bag had 30 milliliters of water, a pinch of yeast, and a packet of sugar. After looking at the Ziploc bags when you brought them back, you might have noticed that the one with the sugar looked almost carbonated and probably had more yeast in it than the bag that didn't have the sugar. If we look at these under the microscope, we'll also see a similar finding. The bag that doesn't have any sugar in it, you probably didn't find any yeast in either. But in the bag that had the sugar, you probably could find yeast still in the water. The yeast are using the sugar as fuel to reproduce. We burn the sugar by reacting it with something else. To understand that something else, think about the cashew lab that we also did. Burning is a chemical reaction. When we burn something, we are reacting it with oxygen. In the same way, we need to breathe in oxygen in order to react sugar. When we breathe in air through our trachea. The trachea is a passage that allows air to flow from the nose and mouth into the bronchial tubes. The bronchial tubes are a branching set of passages that allow the air to flow from the trachea into the lungs. When the air gets to the lungs, the oxygen is absorbed into our bloodstream. In our cells, we burn sugar the same way we burned the cashew in the cashew lab. We take the sugar and we react it with oxygen. Just like any other burning reaction, this gives us energy. Not in flames, but in the ability to move and talk and think. Just like burning, we also get some products of that chemical reaction. If you think about most of the fires that we've seen when we've studied burning as a chemical reaction, you might think about what one of the products is. You might also discover these products if you think about what we breathe back out again. When we breathe in oxygen, that air exchanges with carbon dioxide in our lungs. The lungs are a pair of spongy organs located on either side of the chest that absorb oxygen and release carbon dioxide. Alveoli are small pockets in the lungs that allow the air to exchange gases with the bloodstream. So our reaction is sugar and oxygen become carbon dioxide and one other thing. We'll figure out what that other thing is a little bit later in another lab. In the meantime, you do need to define oxygen and carbon dioxide. Oxygen reacts with sugar inside a cell to produce carbon dioxide and that one other thing. Carbon dioxide is a product of the reaction between sugar and oxygen. We'll look at the rest of that equation later when we model it out and balance it. We'll do our typical modeling activity like we did with all our other chemical reactions by cutting and pasting out the circles of the atoms. You should also know that the process you did with the yeast and the sugar water is called fermentation. This is a process of yeast converting sugar and oxygen into carbon dioxide.